I wake up before the alarm, which is already unusual. The room is too quiet for Tokyo. The curtains are heavier than anything I've owned. For a second, my body does what it always does. Reach for the phone, check the hour, count the weight of the day ahead. Then I notice the folder on the desk. Thick, stamped. My name is printed on it, but it isn't my name anymore. It's a title. Prime Minister of Japan. The realization doesn't arrive dramatically. It settles like a dull pressure behind the eyes. Yesterday, this position belonged to Sanae Takaichi, fresh from a landslide lower house election, backed by a supermajority, framed by headlines about stability, security, markets rising, the yen steadying. Today, for exactly one day, that authority is mine. Not earned, not learned, just placed.
Before I say anything, the world adjusts. A knock comes at the door. It's careful, respectful. The person who enters bows slightly deeper than necessary. They don't ask what I want for breakfast. They wait. When I hesitate, they interpret the silence as intention. A decision appears where I made none. Tea arrives. Documents are aligned. My schedule has already decided how I will spend the next 14 hours. This is the first shock. Power moves faster than thought. I haven't endorsed defense spending increases. I haven't spoken about inflation, or alliances, or China, or the United States. I haven't said a word about Taiwan. And yet doors open. Security clears hallways. Cars idle downstairs with engines on, as if my presence alone justifies the fuel. I look at my hands and feel the mismatch. Internally, I am still calibrated to asking permission, to measuring effort against reward. Externally, I am treated as if my judgment has already been validated by millions of votes cast in winter, by youth turnout statistics, by market graphs trending upward. The authority is assumed to be coherent. I am not. In the mirror, nothing looks different. That makes it worse. The suit fits too well. The posture comes automatically, borrowed from images I've seen 1,000 times. I understand, suddenly, how easily seriousness can be mistaken for competence. What unsettles me most is how little resistance exists. Rules don't vanish, they soften. Procedures bend. People anticipate my needs before I feel them. Not because I am persuasive, because the office is. Somewhere between the second briefing note and the third polite silence, a thought intrudes. This system runs on endurance, quiet pressure, unspoken expectation. The same forces that push people to work through exhaustion now orbit me, polished and obedient, asking nothing but continuation. I haven't chosen this responsibility, yet it behaves as if I consented long ago. The day hasn't started, not really, and already something feels spent. I decide early that I won't spend this day reinforcing the shape of power that already exists. Not because I'm brave, because the power isn't mine, and pretending it is feels dishonest. The first thing I do is cancel a scheduled policy briefing. Not publicly, quietly, no explanation. The room reacts like a system error. Phones vibrate. Assistants exchange looks. A cancellation from this office isn't neutral. It's interpreted. Someone leaks it within minutes. By the time I step into the car, a headline has already formed. Prime Minister delays security briefing amid regional tensions. I haven't delayed anything. I've just chosen silence over performance. Instead, I asked to visit a mid-sized manufacturing company outside Tokyo. No cameras. That alone triggers resistance. The visit is deemed unstructured. Someone suggests adding media for transparency. I refuse. That refusal becomes its own act of communication. Transparency, I learn, is only acceptable when it's visible. At the factory, nobody knows how to talk to me without the script. Productivity drops the moment I enter the room. People bow too much. One manager apologizes for conditions I didn't mention. I don't give a speech.
I ask one worker how many hours they slept last night. The question lands wrong. It's not hostile, it's unfamiliar. Someone later describes it to a reporter as an implicit critique of work ethic. I hadn't critiqued anything. I just asked. Back in the car, notifications stack. Markets twitch. Commentators speculate about a shift in tone. Tone is safer than meaning. Tone can be managed. At noon, I do something I know this office isn't supposed to do. I give a short, unscripted press availability. No prepared remarks, no framing. I talk about exhaustion, not as a cultural flaw, not as a moral failing, but as a system that rewards quiet self-erasure. I don't propose legislation. I don't announce reforms. I just describe what I've seen in the last few hours. By evening, the words have been hollowed out. One outlet frames it as a warning to young workers to adjust expectations. Another calls it a distraction from inflation. A foreign network ties it to defense spending, as if burnout is a strategic vulnerability. The same sentence becomes reassurance, threat, weakness, and provocation, depending on who needs it to be. I start to understand the rule I've inherited. Honesty is permitted only when it aligns with prior assumptions. In the afternoon, I redirect a small discretionary fund. Not to a foundation, not to a public program. I approve emergency relief for a group that never trends. Temporary care workers whose contracts quietly expire when they get sick.
No announcement. The paperwork alone triggers alarms. Why them? Why now? Someone warns me it could be interpreted as favoritism. I sign anyway. By evening, the story leaks. The numbers are small, the reaction is not. Analysts debate precedent. Critics question motive. Supporters project virtue I don't claim. The act stops being about the people it affects. It becomes a signal, and signals are dangerous. As the day narrows, I realize how little room there is for neutral action. Walking without announcing direction is read as avoidance. Speaking plainly is read as strategy. Doing nothing is read as intent. I break one last rule before the day ends. I refuse a closing statement. No recap, no reassurance, no narrative bow. The silence unnerves them more than any policy shift could. Later, alone again, I feel the distortion linger. Words bent by status, gestures inflated by title, reality edited in advance. Tomorrow, this authority will return to its rightful owner, complete with discipline, messaging, and long-term calculation. But the damage, or the exposure, won't fully disappear. I didn't change the system. I only touched it briefly, and it reshaped itself around me without asking what I meant. The last hours arrive without ceremony. Power doesn't leave dramatically. It thins. In the evening, I notice people checking the clock more often. Not openly, just a glance, a recalculation. The deference is still there, but it's less elastic. The system is already preparing for my disappearance. Authority, it turns out, has a half-life. I sit alone with a final briefing I no longer need to read. The issues are large: security alignments, diplomatic strain, economic pressure. But what weighs on me is smaller and sharper. Every decision today was watched, replayed, resized. Nothing stayed the size I intended. Influence didn't amplify truth. It bent it. I understand now the cost of holding this position permanently. Not the workload, the constant self-monitoring, the way every sentence must survive hostile interpretation before it's spoken, the way silence becomes suspicious and honesty becomes a liability. Power here isn't freedom. It's continuous posture. There's a quiet joke hidden in it. For one day, I borrowed something that took decades of discipline, alliances, elections, and image management to build. I stepped into it half awake, untrained,
and the machine still ran. That's the unsettling part. The office doesn't need the person. The person adapts or erodes. I think about what it must feel like to live this way long term, to never be off stage, to know that even private concern is logged, contextualized, and filed away for future use. Fame doesn't erase loneliness, it industrializes it. Isolation with infrastructure. As midnight approaches, my phone stops lighting up. Access drains faster than it arrived. The guards outside the room stand a fraction farther back. Nobody is rude. That would be inefficient. The rules simply harden again, quietly reclaiming their shape. Tomorrow, if I speak like this, it will be called opinion. If I ask questions like I did today, they will be small.
The same words will lose their ability to rearrange rooms. That loss feels strange, but also relieving. Influence is heavy. It demands constant justification. I catch myself rehearsing how I'll explain this day to no one in particular. Then I stop. Explanation is another performance habit. I don't need it. What stays with me isn't guilt or pride, it's calibration. I now know exactly how uneven this world is, how conditional attention can be, how temporary power really feels from the inside, less like control, more like surveillance with better furniture. When I wake tomorrow as myself again, the doors will not open automatically. And that, oddly, feels honest. I return with less certainty, more awareness, and a clear understanding that influence is not owned. It's rented. And the clock is always visible. Disclaimer. This video is a fictional, satirical thought experiment. It does not represent the real thoughts, actions, intentions, beliefs, or private life of Sanae Takaichi, nor does it claim to portray actual events or decisions. The narrative uses a hypothetical perspective to explore themes of fame, power, authority, and influence as social and psychological concepts. Any situations, reactions, or interpretations shown are symbolic and designed for commentary, not biography or political analysis. This work should be understood as creative reflection, not as a factual depiction of real individuals, governments, or policies.